"You're fired!" Claire screamed through the open doorway, rain soaking her hair, while Ethan's son stared, clutching a drawing labeled family. "Before we dive into the story, I need to know something. Have you ever had your whole life flipped by words you didn't understand until it was almost too late? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. And if you've ever felt like love was worth fighting for, subscribe. Trust me, you'll want to hear how this ends. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. Ethan Cole's mornings always started the same way. Keys misplaced, coffee reheated twice, and his 7-year-old son, Noah, negotiating socks like it was a hostage situation. The kitchen clock blinked 7:18 a.m., permanently stuck there since the last power outage, mocking him. Outside, the cul-de-sac was already humming. Car doors slamming, neighbors waving with travel mugs in hand, life moving forward without waiting. Ethan packed Noah's lunch with practiced efficiency. Peanut butter, apple slices, a folded note with a badly drawn smiley face. He slipped it in quietly, like a secret. Noah didn't look up from the cereal box. That stung more than it should have. At the elementary school drop-off, parents lined up in SUVs, engines idling, radios murmuring morning news. Ethan watched a couple argue softly through a windshield, their hands animated, faces alive. He turned away fast, heart tightening. He told himself he didn't miss that. He didn't have time to. Work was 15 minutes away, past the gas station where he always forgot to use his rewards points, past the CVS where the pharmacist knew his name because of Noah's allergy meds. Normal, predictable, safe. That's how Ethan liked it. Claire Whitman's morning had started in heels she immediately regretted. The office parking lot was half empty, sun glinting off glass and steel, promising another day of spreadsheets and measured conversations. She sat in her car longer than necessary, fingers resting on the steering wheel, breathing through the quiet. Her phone buzzed. A calendar reminder. Quarterly reviews. She closed her eyes. Inside, the office smelled faintly of burnt coffee and copier toner. Familiar. Controlled. Claire walked briskly, nodding at employees, her expression professional to the point of intimidation. People straightened when she passed. She noticed everything. The too loud laughter near the break room, the slouching intern, the empty desk that belonged to Ethan Cole. She told herself that irritation was about punctuality. Nothing more. At her desk, she placed her bag just so, smoothed her blazer, and opened her laptop. The desktop photo flashed briefly, a blurry shot of a beach at dusk, taken years ago. She minimized it quickly. Some things didn't belong at work. Some things never belonged anywhere. By 10 a.m., Ethan was knee-deep in reports, the hum of the office settling into his bones. He liked the quiet productivity, the way numbers behaved if you paid attention. He glanced at the clock. 10:07, he was late. Again. Claire stood in the doorway of his cubicle, clipboard in hand. "Morning," she said. "Hey, sorry. School drop-off ran long." She nodded once. "It always does." He smiled, missing the edge beneath her words. "Kids, right?" Claire's jaw tightened. "My office. When you're done." "When?" "Not if." As she walked away, Ethan noticed the way her shoulders seemed tense, like she was bracing against something unseen. He frowned, then turned back to his screen. There was always something to finish. Always later. That night, Ethan sat on the edge of Noah's bed, listening to him recount the drama of second grade, the betrayal of a broken crayon, the triumph of kickball. Ethan nodded, laughed in the right places, but his mind kept drifting back to Claire's tone, the clipped precision of it. "Dad," Noah said suddenly, "do you ever get lonely?" The question hit without warning. Ethan swallowed. "Why would you ask that?" Noah shrugged. "Mrs. Jensen says grown-ups get lonely too." Ethan forced a smile. "I'm okay, buddy." But after the lights were off, he stood alone in the hallway longer than necessary. The house too quiet, the air heavy with things unsaid. Claire's apartment was immaculate in a way that felt temporary, like a hotel room no one ever checked out of. She reheated leftovers, ate standing at the counter, and scrolled through her phone without seeing anything. A text thread sat unanswered at the top, her sister, asking if she'd met anyone yet. Claire locked the phone and leaned back against the counter. At work, she was decisive, respected, untouchable. At home, the silence pressed in. She thought of Ethan, his distracted smile, the way he talked about Noah like it was the most natural thing in the world. The way he never seemed to notice her pauses, her softened voice when she spoke to him alone. She told herself it was fine. She was his boss. Boundaries mattered. Still, when she set her alarm, she caught herself hoping he'd be on time tomorrow. Days passed like that, almost moments, near misses. Ethan replayed conversations in the shower, wondering if he'd missed something. Claire rewrote emails 3 times, deleting lines that felt too personal. At night, Ethan scrolled through photos of Noah, lingering on the ones where they both smiled. Claire drove home with the radio low, a song she almost recognized playing in the background. 3 questions hung between them, unanswered. What if Ethan's normal wasn't enough anymore? What if Claire's control was costing her everything? And what, exactly, were they both pretending not to see? The company announced a restructuring. New pressures. Longer hours. Claire scheduled mandatory one-on-ones. Ethan circled the date on his calendar, unease settling in his chest. On the morning of his review, rain threatened, clouds low and heavy. Noah forgot his lunch. Ethan turned the car around, heart pounding, already late. At the office, Claire stood by the window, watching the parking lot fill, rain beginning to fall. She checked her watch. Then she heard hurried footsteps. Their paths were converging. Neither of them realized how close they were to the moment that would fracture everything they thought they understood. But neither of them knew this storm wasn't just weather. It was the beginning of everything they'd been avoiding. But neither of them knew the knock that was coming would change how they defined love, loss, and courage forever. The rain came down hard, fast enough to blur the parking lot into silver streaks. Ethan's wipers struggled as he swung into the office complex, heart thudding. He killed the engine and ran, shoes slipping on wet concrete. The glass doors yanked open with a hiss, warm air hitting his face. Inside, the lobby smelled like damp coats and burnt coffee. Phones rang. Printers whined. Someone laughed too loudly near reception. Ethan slowed, breath uneven, shaking rain from his jacket. Ethan. He stopped. Claire stood 10 feet away, hair darker from the rain, blazer speckled, eyes locked on him. For a second, no one else existed. The noise fell back. The air felt tight, like the moment before a storm breaks. He glanced at his watch. I know. I'm late. She took a step closer. He noticed the way her jaw set, the way she held herself like she was bracing for impact. Her heels clicked once on the tile. Then again. My office, she said. Time slowed in that strange way it does when you know something matters but don't yet know why. Ethan followed her down the hall. The lights buzzed overhead. A framed poster crooked on the wall. Someone's phone chimed with a text. Ordinary sounds. Nothing ordinary about the weight in his chest. Her door shut behind them. The office was neat to the point of sharpness. Desk cleared. Chair pushed in. A plant by the window that somehow stayed alive. Rain streaked down the glass, tapping a soft rhythm. Sit, Claire said. He did. She didn't. For a moment, she just stood there, hands on the desk, looking at a file that wasn't open. Ethan shifted. His knee bounced. He tried a smile. Look, if this is about. Do you understand how this looks? She asked. He blinked. What? She lifted her eyes. They were bright. Not angry. Something else. Hurt, maybe. He couldn't be sure. You miss meetings, she said. Deadlines slide. You apologize. You smile. And I keep letting it go. He nodded, confused. You thought I didn't notice? Her voice stayed calm, but it carried. Or that it didn't matter? It matters, he said quickly. Of course it does. I'm trying. She exhaled, sharp. Trying isn't the same as showing up. The words landed hard. Ethan swallowed. He thought of Noah's forgotten lunch. The rain. The clock stuck at 7:18. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Claire moved around the desk and finally sat. The chair creaked. She folded her hands. The silence stretched. "I'm not here to punish you," she said. "I'm here to understand." He laughed once, soft and humorless. "You picked a rough day for that." Her gaze softened despite herself. "Why?" He hesitated. The truth pressed against his teeth. He wasn't used to saying it out loud. Not at work. Not to her. "My kid," he said. He forgot his lunch. I turned back. It threw everything off. Claire nodded slowly. "You could have texted." "I didn't want excuses." She tilted her head. "You didn't want to be seen." That hit closer than he liked. He looked down at his hands. They were still damp. "I don't mix things," he said. "Work is work. And life is life," she said. "Until it isn't." Rain ticked against the window. A siren wailed somewhere far off. Ethan felt something shift. A small crack. She closed the file without opening it. "This isn't just about today," she said. "It's about patterns." He met her eyes. "Are you firing me?" The question hung there, fragile. She stared at him, searching for what he didn't know. Her throat moved as she swallowed. "No," she said. "Not today." Relief washed through him, quick and dizzy. He let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "Thank you," he said. She flinched, just a little. "Don't thank me. Fix it." He nodded. "I will." Another pause. Longer this time. "Ethan," she said, quieter. "I need to know you're here. Fully." He wanted to say yes. He wanted to promise something clean and complete. Instead, he said, "I'm doing my best." Her mouth tightened. "Sometimes your best feels like distance." He stood, unsure. "Is that all?" She hesitated. "For now." He reached for the door. His hand hovered on the handle. He turned back. "For what it's worth," he said. "I like working here." She looked away. "So do I." He left. 5 minutes later, he was in the stairwell, leaning against the cool concrete, heart racing. His phone buzzed. A text from Noah's after-school program. "He's okay. Don't worry." Ethan closed his eyes. He replayed Claire's words. Patterns. Distance. Fully. None of it made sense. All of it felt important. He went back to his desk and tried to work. The numbers swam. His coffee went cold. Across the hall, Claire closed her office door and pressed her palms to her eyes. Her pulse thundered. She'd rehearsed that conversation a dozen times. None of it had gone the way she planned. She hated how close he'd been. Hated how easily he unsettled her. Hated that when he said thank you, it felt like loss. She straightened, smoothed her blazer, and opened her email. Meetings stacked like bricks. She welcomed the wait. The rest of the day passed in fragments. Glances caught and dropped. Almost words. The office emptied as the rain slowed to a drizzle. Ethan packed up, head down. At the elevator, the doors slid open. Claire stood inside. They froze. "Hey," he said. "Hi." The doors closed. The elevator hummed downward. The space felt too small. He could smell her perfume, light and clean. She shifted her weight. The floor indicator blinked. "I didn't mean to put you on the spot," she said. "It's okay," he said. "I needed it." She looked at him. "Did you?" "Yes." The elevator jolted to a stop. The doors opened. They stepped out together into the dim parking garage. Rain dripped from the ceiling. Puddles reflected the fluorescent lights. They walked side by side, not quite touching. "If you ever need flexibility," she said, careful, "you can ask." He nodded. "I'm not great at that. I've noticed." A corner of his mouth lifted. "You could remind me." Her breath caught. "I have." They reached their cars. The moment stretched, thin as glass. "Good night, Ethan," she said. "Night, Claire." She watched him go, a strange ache settling in her chest. That evening, Ethan picked Noah up late. They grabbed burgers from a drive-thru, ate in the car, grease on their fingers. The radio played an old song he almost recognized. You seem quiet, Noah said. Just thinking. About work. Yeah. Do you like your boss? Ethan laughed. That's a loaded question. Noah shrugged. She sounds loud. Ethan thought of the office door. The rain. Her eyes. She's passionate. Noah smiled. That's good. At home, after bedtime, Ethan stood at the sink, staring out into the dark yard. His phone buzzed. An email notification. From Claire Whitman. Subject. Tomorrow. His pulse jumped. He opened it. Let's talk tomorrow. Not as a warning. As a reset. He stared at the screen. Some moments change everything without asking permission. They leave you standing at a line you didn't know existed. If you've ever felt that pull, the quiet sense that something true is unfolding whether you're ready or not, you understand this pause. Maybe you're in one right now. Stay with this story if you believe those moments deserve attention, because what comes next will ask more of them both. He typed a reply, deleted it, typed again. Okay. Across town, Claire sat on her couch, phone in hand. When his reply came through, she closed her eyes. Relief and fear tangled together. Tomorrow. Neither of them knew what that meant yet. Only that it mattered. Only that pretending would be harder now. And as the rain finally stopped, the silence that followed felt like a held breath, waiting for the knock that would come far too soon. Ethan told himself nothing had changed. The next morning looked the same as every other one. Noah couldn't find his sneakers. The toaster burned one side of the bread. Traffic slowed near the high school because of a minor fender bender. Life moved forward in familiar lines, and Ethan followed them because that was what he knew how to do. At work, he arrived early. That part surprised him. The office was quiet, lights still dim, the smell of fresh coffee drifting from the break room. He sat at his desk and opened his laptop, answering emails with more care than usual. When Claire walked in 20 minutes later, he didn't look up right away. Morning, she said. Morning, he answered, steady. They didn't mention the email. They didn't mention the elevator. They spoke in clean sentences about deadlines and numbers. Felt almost normal. Almost. Claire spent the day proving to herself that she was still in control. She ran meetings. She made decisions. She corrected mistakes without softening her tone. People nodded. Things moved forward. Still, her attention drifted. She noticed Ethan's focus. How he stayed late. How he didn't joke the way he sometimes did. She told herself it was improvement. That was what she'd wanted, right? But when she passed his desk and their eyes met, something unspoken passed between them. A question neither of them asked. They tried to avoid each other. Ethan took the stairs instead of the elevator. Claire scheduled meetings during his lunch break. Emails replaced conversations. Space grew where something else had been. At home, Ethan folded laundry while Noah watched cartoons. His phone buzzed on the counter. A work notification. He glanced at it, then away. You're weird today, Noah said. Am I? Yeah. You keep checking your phone like it's going to yell at you. Ethan smiled faintly. Work stuff. Noah nodded, unconvinced. Mrs. Jensen says when grown-ups act weird, it's usually feelings. Ethan paused, a shirt half folded in his hands. Mrs. Jensen says a lot of things. That night, after Noah fell asleep, Ethan sat on the couch scrolling through nothing. His mind replayed Claire's voice. Let's talk tomorrow. The talk never came. Or maybe it had, in pieces too small to name. He told himself that was fine. Claire's sister called on Thursday. So? Her sister asked. Anyone interesting at work yet? Claire rolled her eyes, pacing her apartment. I'm not doing this. You always say that, her sister replied. And you're always lonely. I'm not lonely. There was a pause. You sound it. Claire ended the call and stood in the quiet. She stared at her reflection in the dark TV screen. Professional. Composed. Alone. At work the next day, she drafted a message to Ethan. Deleted it. Drafted another. Deleted that too. She didn't need to explain herself. She was his boss. That was the line. She'd crossed it once in her head. That was enough. The avoidance began to show. Ethan missed a detail in a report. Claire caught it. Their exchange was polite, but sharp at the edges. A coworker glanced between them, sensing tension without knowing why. During a team lunch, Ethan sat at the far end of the table. Claire laughed at something someone else said. The sound caught him off guard. He hadn't heard her laugh like that in weeks. He looked down at his plate. Later, in the parking lot, rain threatened again. Ethan fumbled with his keys. Claire walked past him without stopping. For a second, he thought she might turn back. She didn't. Both told friends they were fine. Ethan told a coworker he was just tired. Claire told her sister work was busy. Each explanation felt thin, but it held. The truth lived in the quiet moments. Ethan standing at the sink, staring out at the yard, wondering when he'd started noticing the absence of someone who had never really been his. Claire driving home with the radio off, replaying conversations, hearing what she'd wanted him to say instead of what he did. They created distance because distance felt safer than hope. 2 weeks passed. The office announced a mandatory weekend project. Everyone groaned. Claire assigned teams quickly, avoiding eye contact with Ethan. "You're with marketing," she said, voice even. He nodded. "Got it." Their hands brushed when she passed him a folder. The contact lasted less than a second. It stayed with both of them all day. That night, Ethan lay awake listening to Noah breathe in the next room. His phone rested on the nightstand. Silent. Across town, Claire sat on her bed, shoes still on, phone in hand. She typed his name, stared at it, locked the screen. Pride told them to wait. Fear told them to stop. Saturday morning arrived gray and cold. Ethan dropped Noah at his mom's house, promising he'd be back Sunday afternoon. On the drive to the office, he rehearsed small talk in his head. Neutral. Safe. The building felt empty without the weekday rush. Claire stood by the conference table, sleeves rolled up, hair pulled back. She looked tired. "Thanks for coming in," she said. "Part of the job." They worked side by side for hours. Numbers, notes, quiet efficiency. It almost felt peaceful. Almost. At noon, the power flickered. The lights went out. The room fell into dim emergency glow. "Seriously," Ethan said. Claire sighed. Storm must have hit the grid. They waited. Nothing changed. "My car's in the garage," she said. "No signal down there." "So is mine." Silence filled the space between them. Not awkward. Heavy. "We can wait it out," she said. He nodded. They sat. Minutes passed. Neither checked the time. "Ethan," she said finally. He looked up. She hesitated. "Never mind." He didn't push. That hurt more than if he had. The lights came back an hour later. They finished the work without speaking about anything else. When it was done, Claire gathered the papers into a neat stack. "Good work," she said. "Yeah." They walked out together. The storm had passed, leaving the air sharp and clean. They reached the parking lot. "See you Monday," she said. "Monday." He watched her get into her car. She didn't look back. On Sunday night, Ethan sat alone after Noah went to bed. He opened his laptop, then closed it. He picked up his phone and typed a message. "Did I do something wrong?" He stared at it, deleted it. Across town, Claire poured herself a glass of water she didn't drink. Her phone buzzed with a work email. Not from him. She set it face down. Both felt the cost of waiting, the ache of almost, the quiet regret that came from choosing safety again and again. They were standing still, both afraid to move, unaware that the pause itself was becoming a choice. And neither of them knew that the distance they were building was about to be taken away, by circumstances neither could avoid, and feelings neither could keep buried much longer. The call came late Tuesday afternoon. Ethan was packing up when his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost let it go to voicemail. "Mr. Cole?" a woman asked. "This is Lincoln Elementary. Noah slipped during recess. He's okay, but we need you to pick him up." Ethan's chest tightened. "I'm on my way." He grabbed his jacket and headed for the exit, already texting his mom. She couldn't get there in time. In the lobby, he nearly ran into Claire. "Everything okay?" she asked. Noah fell. I need to get him. Her expression shifted instantly. Go. He hesitated. I might need to leave my car here. Mine's been acting up. I'll drive you, she said. The words were out before either of them thought them through. They looked at each other. You don't have to, he said. I know, she replied. But I can. He nodded once. Okay. Claire's car smelled faintly like citrus cleaner. The dashboard clock blinked the right time. Rain threatened again, clouds low over the highway as they merged into traffic. Neither spoke for a full minute. Ethan watched the road signs pass. Familiar names. Exit numbers he'd driven 1,000 times. Is he hurt? Claire asked finally. Just shaken. Scraped knee, I think. She nodded. Kids bounce back. Yeah, he said. Most days. Another stretch of silence. Comfortable and tense at the same time. Traffic slowed near a construction zone. Orange cones narrowed the lanes. Claire tapped the steering wheel. I didn't mean to push you, she said quietly. He glanced at her. About work. About everything. He considered his words. I don't think you did. She let out a breath. Good. The school came into view. Ethan felt the knot in his chest loosen as they pulled into the parking lot. He jumped out before the car fully stopped. Noah sat on a bench near the office, bandage on his knee, swinging his legs. When he saw Ethan, his face lit up. Dad! Ethan crouched, pulling him into a careful hug. You okay? Yeah, it stings. You were brave. Noah nodded proudly. Then his eyes flicked to Claire standing nearby. Who's that? Ethan hesitated. My boss. Claire smiled, crouching to Noah's level. Hi, I'm Claire. Noah studied her. You don't look like a boss. She laughed softly. I'll take that. Back in the car, Noah chattered about recess and dinosaurs. Ethan listened, grateful. Claire watched them in the rearview mirror, something warm settling in her chest. Halfway home, her car shuddered. That's not good, she muttered. The engine sputtered. Warning lights blinked. She guided the car onto the shoulder of a two-lane road lined with bare trees and a closed gas station. Silence. Claire tried the ignition again. Nothing. Ethan leaned back. Looks like we're stuck. She sighed. Of all days. Noah peered out the window. Are we camping? Ethan smiled. Something like that. Claire called roadside assistance. The wait time stretched. An hour. Maybe more. Tow trucks coming from the next town, she said. They said it'll be a bit. Ethan checked the sky. The first drops of rain hit the windshield. We can wait, he said. They did. The rain came down steady, drumming on the roof. Noah fell asleep against the door, breathing slow and even. Neither spoke for a long time. Claire stared through the windshield. Ethan watched Noah's reflection in the glass. I don't usually let people see this part of my life, Ethan said quietly. Claire turned. Which part? The messy part. The not in control part. She nodded. Same. He looked at her. You seem like you always have it together. She smiled, small. That's the trick. Silence returned. Not heavy, just honest. I grew up moving a lot, Claire said after a while. New schools, new rules. Being good at things was how I stayed safe. Ethan listened, didn't interrupt. So I learned to be efficient, she continued. Feelings were optional. He nodded slowly. I used to think love worked the same way. You do everything right, and it stays. Her eyes flicked to him. Used to. He swallowed. I don't know anymore. Another quiet stretch. Rain softened to a mist. Noah stirred. Dad, I'm here. Can we get ice cream? Ethan laughed. We're stuck on the side of the road, bud. Claire smiled. There's a diner a mile down. If the tow truck takes too long, we could walk. Noah perked up. Diner ice cream? Best kind, Ethan said. They left the car with a note and walked under Claire's umbrella. The air smelled like wet pavement and pine. The diner's neon sign buzzed, warm light spilling onto the gravel lot. Inside, it felt like another time. Vinyl booths, a counter with spinning stools, a waitress who called everyone Han. They slid into a booth. Noah colored on a placemat. Ethan and Claire shared fries without thinking about it. "This place still exists?" Claire asked. "Barely," Ethan said. "I used to come here with my dad." She glanced at him. "Used to?" He nodded. "Before?" She didn't ask. She didn't need to. Noah finished his ice cream and leaned against Ethan. Sleepy again. Ethan wrapped an arm around him. Instinctive. Claire watched, something breaking open in her chest. The tow truck came at dusk. They walked back to the car. The sky streaked pink and gray. As the truck pulled away with Claire's car, Ethan felt a strange pull, like the moment was slipping. "Thank you," he said, "for everything." She met his eyes. "You don't have to thank me. I do." They stood there, the air cool, Noah half asleep in Ethan's arms. "I see it," Claire said softly. "See what?" "The way you love him. The way you show up, even when it's hard." Ethan swallowed. "I'm trying." "I know." The words sat between them, full of things unsaid. She stepped back. "I'll call a ride." "I can drive you," he offered. She hesitated, then nodded. They drove in silence, Noah asleep in the back seat. Streetlights flickered on. The world felt smaller, closer. When they reached her place, she didn't get out right away. "Ethan," she said. "Yeah. There are things I haven't said. Because I didn't think I was allowed to." He turned to her. "Maybe we're allowed now." Her breath caught. "Maybe." She opened the door, then paused. "Good night." "Good night." She watched his car disappear down the street, heart racing. Later, alone in his kitchen, Ethan replayed the day. The car. The diner. The way Claire had looked at Noah. Something had shifted. He felt it deep, undeniable. Across town, Claire stood by her window, rain starting again. She pressed her forehead to the glass. They'd been trapped together by chance, by responsibility, by weather. And now the distance they'd built felt thinner, fragile. She saw it then, the fracture in his armor. And it terrified her. "Have you ever been stuck with someone who made you feel more than you were ready for?" "Tell me what happened." The week after the breakdown didn't slow down. If anything, it pressed closer. Ethan felt it in the way his chest stayed tight even during quiet moments. At the grocery store, pushing the cart down familiar aisles. At home, helping Noah with homework at the kitchen table. At night, lying awake while the house settled around him. Claire's face kept appearing where it didn't belong. In reflections. In pauses. In the empty space beside him on the couch. At work, they were careful. Too careful. They spoke when they had to. Kept conversations short. Professional. Clean. But the air between them felt charged. Like a wire pulled too tight. Everyone else noticed. "You two okay?" A coworker asked Ethan one afternoon. "Yeah," he said quickly. "Why wouldn't we be?" The question followed him the rest of the day. The unraveling didn't begin with words. It began with a moment that refused to stay quiet. Thursday evening, Ethan picked Noah up from his mom's house and drove home through side streets lined with bare trees and modest homes. Porch lights flickered on as dusk settled in. At a stoplight, Noah looked out the window. "Dad." "Yeah." "Do you miss Mom?" The question landed without warning. Ethan's hands tightened on the wheel. "Of course I do." Noah nodded. "I miss her too." The light turned green. Ethan drove on, throat tight, the past pressing closer than it had in years. That night, after Noah went to bed, Ethan sat alone at the kitchen table. He pulled out a drawer he rarely opened. Inside were old things. A folded card. A photo creased at the edges. A wedding ring he'd stopped wearing but never put away. He stared at them longer than he meant to. The knock on the door startled him. He wasn't expecting anyone. When he opened it, Claire stood on the porch, coat pulled tight, hair damp from misting rain. Her eyes were wide, unsure. "I'm sorry," she said. "I should have called. He stepped back. "It's okay. Come in." The house smelled like dish soap and clean laundry. Warm. Quiet. "I won't stay long," she said, already lying to herself. They stood in the living room, not sitting, not moving closer either. "I couldn't stop thinking about you," she said softly. "About that night. About Noah." Ethan nodded. "Same." Silence stretched. Thick. Fragile. "I don't know how to do this," he admitted. She swallowed. "Neither do I." They sat on opposite ends of the couch. Neither spoke for a full minute. The ticking clock on the wall sounded loud. "I lost my wife 4 years ago," Ethan said finally. Claire turned toward him, giving him her full attention. "She got sick fast," he continued. "1 month we were arguing about paint colors. The next, I was signing paperwork I didn't understand." His voice stayed even. His hands did not. "I promised myself I'd keep everything steady for Noah. No chaos. No surprises." Claire nodded, eyes shining. "But somewhere along the way," he said, steady turned into empty. The word hung there. Claire took a breath. "I learned early not to need anyone." He looked at her. "My parents weren't bad," she said. "Just gone. Always working. Always tired. I figured if I was perfect, I wouldn't be left." She laughed once. Quiet. "Turns out perfection just makes you lonely." They sat with that truth between them. "I didn't mean to push you," she said. "I was scared." "Of what?" "Of wanting something I wasn't sure I deserved." Ethan nodded slowly. "I was scared of losing something I already had." Silence again. This one felt different. The rain outside picked up, tapping against the windows. "I don't want to mess this up," Ethan said. "Neither do I. But pretending it's not there isn't working." She met his eyes. "No." They moved closer without noticing who did it first. Ethan's voice dropped. "I see you, Claire. I just didn't think I was allowed to." Her breath caught. "I needed you to choose me, not as your boss, not as a problem to manage." He nodded. "I'm choosing now." The truth settled between them, heavy and bright. The wound she'd carried for years, the need to be wanted without proving worth, was finally spoken aloud. The wound he'd buried, the fear that love always ends, stood exposed in the open room. If you believe some truths deserve to be heard, and some stories deserve to be witnessed all the way through, stay with this one. Some moments ask for courage from the people living them, and from those watching too, because what follows truth is never easy, but it matters. Claire stood first, pacing the room. "I'm afraid," she admitted, "that once this is real, it can be taken away." Ethan rose too. "I'm afraid I won't be enough." They stood face to face, close enough to feel each other's breath. "You already are," she said. He shook his head slightly. "I don't know how to be this version of myself yet." She reached out, stopping just short of touching him. "Then learn. With me." The moment felt fragile. One wrong word could shatter it. A sound broke the silence. Footsteps. Noah appeared in the hallway, rubbing his eyes. "Dad." Ethan turned instantly. "Hey, buddy. You okay?" Noah nodded, then looked at Claire. "Hi." "Hi," she said gently. "I had a bad dream," Noah said. Ethan knelt, pulling him close. "You're safe." Claire watched the way Ethan held his son. Protective, present, real. Something shifted inside her again. Not fear this time. Resolve. Later, after Noah was back in bed, Claire stood by the door, coat in hand. "I should go," she said. Ethan nodded, though every part of him resisted. "Okay." She hesitated. "This doesn't mean everything's solved." "I know. But it means we're not hiding anymore." He smiled softly. "That's a start." She stepped onto the porch. The night air was cool, smelling like rain and fallen leaves. "Ethan," she said. "Yes. No more pretending." "No more," he agreed. She left, heart pounding, the truth echoing in her chest. The next few days were different. Not easier, but honest. They didn't rush. They didn't define anything. But they stopped avoiding each other. At work, glances lingered. Conversations softened. Ethan felt lighter. Claire felt exposed and alive. Then the ground shifted. Friday afternoon, Ethan's phone buzzed with a number he didn't recognize. "Mr. Cole?" a man asked. "This is HR. We need to discuss a concern that's been raised." Ethan's stomach dropped. "About what?" "There's been a complaint regarding boundaries in the workplace." The office around him blurred. Across the hall, Claire laughed at something a coworker said. She didn't see his face change, didn't know what was already unraveling. Ethan ended the call and stared at the wall. The truth had been spoken. Now it would be tested. And neither of them yet understood how close they were to losing everything they just found. The HR meeting was scheduled for Monday morning. That alone was enough to ruin the weekend. Ethan barely slept. He moved through Saturday like a ghost, doing laundry, cooking meals he didn't taste, nodding when Noah talked about a school project. Every few minutes, his mind replayed the call. A complaint regarding boundaries. He didn't tell Claire, not because he wanted to lie, but because he didn't know how to explain something that already felt like a verdict. Sunday night, he stood in the shower longer than usual, letting hot water beat against his shoulders. He stared at the tile and tried to convince himself this was manageable, that he could fix it, that he hadn't already crossed a line he couldn't step back from. Across town, Claire sat at her dining table with her laptop open and untouched. She felt the shift too, the way people glanced a second longer at work, the way conversations stopped when she entered the room. She told herself she was imagining it. She always did. Monday morning came cold and bright. The HR office sat on the second floor, away from the open workspace. Neutral walls, a small table, 2 chairs, a framed poster about workplace respect. Ethan sat across from a woman he'd only met once. She spoke calmly, carefully. "A concern was raised about your relationship with Ms. Whitman," she said. "Specifically, the perception of favoritism." Ethan's chest tightened. "There is no relationship." The woman nodded, writing something down. "Perception is often enough." He swallowed. "I never asked for special treatment." "We understand," she said. "But given the power dynamic, this situation puts the company at risk." The words landed hard. "So what happens now?" Ethan asked. She folded her hands. "One of you needs to transfer departments. Or, we pursue termination." Termination. The word echoed. "You're asking me to leave," he said. "We're asking you to choose," she replied. Ethan walked out of the office numb. The hallway felt too bright, too loud. He leaned against the wall and breathed until the room stopped spinning. He thought of Noah, rent, school schedules, stability. He thought of Claire's face the night she stood on his porch, brave and scared at the same time. The choice felt cruel and simple. Claire found out an hour later. She was called in next. She sat straighter than she felt, listened without interrupting. When they finished, she stood. "This is my fault." The HR rep hesitated. "We're not assigning blame." "I am," Claire said quietly. She walked out with her head high and her heart in pieces. She found Ethan in the stairwell. "You knew," she said. He looked up, eyes tired. "I didn't know how to tell you." She crossed her arms, hugging herself. "What did they say?" He didn't answer right away. "Ethan," she pressed. "They want one of us gone," he said. "Or both." Her breath caught. And I can't risk my job." The words landed like a slap. Claire stepped back. "So that's it. I have a kid," he said, voice tight. "I don't get to gamble." Her eyes filled, but her voice stayed steady. "I didn't ask you to." "You didn't have to," he said. "This was never fair." She stared at him, seeing something close off behind his eyes. The same wall he'd built years ago. "So you're choosing safety," she said. He nodded once. "I have to." Silence filled the stairwell. Heavy. Final. "Then I'll transfer," she said. "I'll fix this." He shook his head. "They won't let you step down without consequences." "I won't let you do that." She laughed, sharp and hurt. "You won't let me?" He flinched. "Goodbye, Ethan," she said. "I hope safety keeps you warm." She turned and walked away before he could stop her. The separation didn't come with yelling. Came with distance. Claire moved departments by the end of the week. Different floor, different schedule, no shared meetings, no eye contact. Ethan kept his job. He lost everything else. At home, the silence returned, louder than before. Noah noticed. "You mad at someone?" he asked one night. Ethan shook his head. "No. You look like when Mom was sick," Noah said softly. "Like you're holding your breath." Ethan turned away, throat tight. Claire packed up her office late Friday evening. The box was lighter than she expected. She took one last look at the space she'd built her authority in. Then she turned off the light. Driving home, she didn't turn on the radio. She let the quiet hurt. She'd done everything right this time. She'd been honest, vulnerable, and it still hadn't been enough. Weeks passed. Ethan focused on routines, school drop-offs, work reports, dinner at the same time every night. He told himself he'd made the responsible choice. It didn't feel responsible. It felt empty. At work, he avoided the stairwell, the diner, anything that reminded him of her. Claire threw herself into her new role, proved herself again, built walls higher this time. But late at night, she replayed his words. "I can't risk my job." She wondered when love had become something people only chose if it didn't cost too much. The breaking point came quietly. One Thursday afternoon, Ethan found a drawing folded in Noah's backpack. It showed 3 figures holding hands. Dad, me, and a woman with dark hair. Underneath, Noah had written one word. Almost. Ethan sat on the couch and stared at it. The cost of his choice finally settled in his chest, heavy and unavoidable. Across town, Claire stood at her window, watching headlights pass. She rested her hand on the glass. She'd chosen dignity. He'd chosen fear. Both were alone. Sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes it's just the beginning of goodbye. Have you ever lost someone because fear felt safer than fighting? Tell me below. Ethan's reckoning didn't arrive all at once. It crept in slowly, through quiet mornings and small moments that refused to let him stay numb. He noticed it first on a Tuesday. Noah was eating cereal, feet swinging under the chair, humming to himself. Ethan watched him longer than usual. "You okay, Dad?" Noah asked. "Yeah," Ethan said. "Just thinking." Noah nodded, then added, "You used to smile more." The words landed soft and deep. After drop-off, Ethan sat in his car in the school parking lot instead of driving away. Parents came and went. A crossing guard waved. Life kept moving. He didn't. He pulled Noah's drawing from his wallet. The one with 3 figures. The word almost written in uneven letters. For weeks, he'd told himself he'd done the right thing. That responsibility meant choosing safety every time. But sitting there, alone, he finally saw the truth he'd been avoiding. Safety hadn't protected his son. It had taught him how to disappear. That night, Ethan stayed up after Noah fell asleep. He didn't turn on the TV, didn't check his phone. He walked through the house slowly. The scuffed baseboards, the loose cabinet hinge, the framed photo of him and his wife at the county fair years ago, laughing with powdered sugar on their faces. He stood there a long time. "I didn't stop loving you," he said to the quiet room. "I just stopped living." The words surprised him, relieved him. For the first time since she died, he let himself feel the grief fully. Not as a wave to fight, but as something that could pass through him without taking everything. He sat at the kitchen table until the clock read 1:12 a.m., breathing steady, heart heavy but clear. By morning, he knew. He couldn't teach Noah to choose fear. Claire's reckoning came from the opposite direction. She was succeeding again. Her new department respected her. Her inbox stayed full. Her calendar packed. She checked every box she was supposed to, and she felt nothing. One evening, she drove aimlessly after work, past strip malls and quiet neighborhoods, until she ended up parked outside the diner. The neon sign buzzed. Same as before. She stayed in the car. Inside, a couple laughed in a booth near the window. The man reached for the woman's hand without thinking. She squeezed back. Claire looked away. At home, she opened an old box she hadn't touched in years. Inside were notebooks, photos, things she'd carried from place to place without ever unpacking. At the bottom was a folded letter she'd written to herself in college. She barely remembered it. "Don't disappear just because it's easier," it read. "You deserve to be chosen, even by yourself." Claire pressed the paper to her chest. She'd spent her whole life being strong in ways that required nothing from anyone. She'd called it independence. Now she saw it for what it was: armor. The next day, Claire took a long lunch. She drove to a park near the river. Families dotted the grass. Kids ran, shouting. A man pushed a stroller, coffee in hand, looking tired and happy at the same time. Claire sat on a bench and let herself imagine a life that wasn't built around control. A life that risked something. She pulled out her phone, scrolled to Ethan's name, stopped. Fear rose fast. What if he didn't want to hear from her? What if she was reopening a wound that needed to heal closed? She locked the screen, then unlocked it again. She didn't send a message. She didn't need to. She already knew what she had to do. 3 days later, Ethan walked into his manager's office. "I want to talk about a transfer," he said. His manager looked surprised. "Everything okay?" "Yes," Ethan said. "And no, but I need to make a change." Took longer than he hoped. Paperwork, conversations, uncertainty. But when he walked out, something felt lighter. That evening, he drove with the windows down despite the cold. Old music played low. He smiled at a red light without knowing why. At home, Noah noticed. "You look different," Noah said. Ethan nodded. "I feel different. Good different." "Yes," he said. "Brave different." Claire submitted her resignation from the department she'd transferred into. Not because she was running, because she was choosing. She didn't know what came next, only that she was done shrinking. On her way out of the building, she passed the stairwell. She paused, breathed, then kept walking. For days, they moved through the same city without crossing paths. Ethan drove past the school. Claire passed the diner. Both thought of each other in quiet flashes. Neither reached out. Not yet. They were becoming people who could. One Saturday morning, Ethan took Noah to the community center for a basketball clinic. The gym echoed with sneakers and laughter. Ethan sat on the bleachers, coffee warming his hands. Across the room, a woman laughed. His head lifted before his mind caught up. Claire stood near the entrance, holding a clipboard, talking to one of the volunteers. She wore jeans and a sweater, hair loose. No armor. She hadn't seen him yet. Ethan stood. For a moment, he didn't move. He let the feeling settle. Fear, hope, resolve. This time, he didn't turn away. Across the gym, Claire felt it, the unmistakable sense of being seen. She looked up. Their eyes met. The noise faded. They didn't wave, didn't speak. They just held the look, both standing still, both changed, both ready. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing love anyway. The gym smelled like rubber mats and orange slices. Kids ran past, laughing, sneakers squeaking against the floor. A whistle blew somewhere. The world kept moving, loud and ordinary, even as everything inside Ethan went quiet. Claire stood across the room, still holding the clipboard. She hadn't looked away. Neither had he. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Noah tugged on Ethan's sleeve. "Dad." Ethan blinked. "Yeah, buddy. That's her," Noah said, matter of fact. "The lady from the diner." Ethan smiled. "Yeah, it is." Noah squinted at him. "You gonna say hi?" Ethan didn't answer right away. He watched Claire hand the clipboard to another volunteer. Watched her take a breath, steadying herself. Then she walked toward him. Every step felt like a choice. They stopped a few feet apart. "Hi," she said. "Hi," he answered. It sounded different this time. Lighter. Honest. Noah looked between them. "I'm gonna get water," he said, already turning away. They laughed softly, the tension breaking just enough to breathe. "I didn't expect to see you here," Ethan said. Claire nodded. "I volunteer on Saturdays now. Helps me remember the world is bigger than offices." He smiled. "That sounds like you." She tilted her head. "Does it?" "Yes," he said. The real you. Silence settled, not awkward. Open. I transferred, Ethan said. Her eyes widened. You didn't have to do that. I know, he said. I needed to. She nodded slowly. I left my department too. He took that in. Are you okay? She smiled, small but real. I am. I didn't know I would be, but I am. They stood there, the past hovering close, the future waiting. I'm sorry, Ethan said. She met his eyes. For what? For choosing fear, he said. For not fighting when I should have. Her breath caught. I was angry, she admitted. But mostly I was hurt. I thought I wasn't worth the risk. You are, he said. You always were. The words landed differently now. Not desperate. Certain. They walked outside together after the clinic ended. The air was cool. Sun low in the sky. Families loaded kids into cars. A dog barked somewhere down the street. They stopped by Ethan's car. I don't want to rush you, he said. Or push. Claire smiled. You're not. She took a breath. I'm still scared. Me too. She nodded. But I don't want to disappear again. He shook his head. Neither do I. They stood close, not touching yet, letting the moment be what it was. I don't need you, Claire said quietly. He smiled, recognizing the strength in it. She continued, voice steady. I choose you. His throat tightened. I choose you too. They didn't kiss. Not yet. They smiled. And that felt bigger. Weeks passed. Slowly. Intentionally. They met for coffee at a small place near Main Street. Walked through a farmer's market on Saturday mornings. Sat on a park bench while Noah played nearby. They talked. About boundaries. About fear. About what they wanted and what they couldn't promise. One night, sitting on Ethan's porch, Claire admitted, I don't need control the way I thought I did. Ethan nodded. I don't need to be numb to be safe. They learned each other in small ways. How Claire liked her coffee strong. How Ethan needed quiet after long days. How Noah watched everything, saying little, understanding more. The real healing came quietly. It came when Noah asked if Claire could come to his school play. When Claire showed up early and clapped the loudest. It came when Ethan talked about his wife without shutting down. When Claire listened without trying to fix anything. It came when Claire had a bad day and didn't hide it. When Ethan stayed. They weren't perfect. They were present. They'd fought through every fear, every wound, every lie they'd told themselves. They'd chosen honesty when silence felt easier. If you believe some people are worth the wait, and some love stories deserve to be witnessed all the way to the end, stay with this one. Because stories like this, grounded, imperfect, real, remind us what's possible when courage finally speaks louder than fear. One evening in early summer, Ethan stood in the kitchen making dinner while Claire helped Noah with homework at the table. The windows were open. A warm breeze moved the curtains. Dad, Noah said, looking up. Is Claire coming to the game tomorrow? Ethan glanced at her. If she wants to. Claire smiled. I wouldn't miss it. Noah nodded, satisfied. Good. Later, after Noah went to bed, Ethan and Claire sat on the couch, feet tucked under them. This feels different, Claire said. Ethan nodded. Because it is. She leaned her head against his shoulder. Thank you for coming back. He kissed the top of her head. Thank you for waiting. The callback came without ceremony. A rainy evening. A knock at the door. Ethan opened it to find Claire standing there, hair damp, eyes bright. You're fired, she said. He laughed, startled. What? From hiding, she said. From pretending you don't want this. He pulled her inside, rain dripping onto the mat. Best firing I've ever had, he said. This time, when he kissed her, it wasn't rushed or afraid. It was sure. Months later, on a quiet Sunday morning, they sat on the porch watching Noah draw with chalk on the sidewalk. Claire reached for Ethan's hand. He didn't let go. The cul-de-sac was still. A neighbor waved. Somewhere a lawn-mower started. Normal life. Full life. They didn't need grand gestures. They'd already made the hardest choice. They stayed. They chose. They made it. Do you believe some people are worth the wait? Drop a heart in the comments if the story stayed with you. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed the story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.